All right, we are live. I'm gonna tweet that we are live and we'll get started. So hello everyone. This is Kat and aka Katie, aka Literary Lady Reviews, and she read with me Miracles and Menorahs by Stacey Agdern. So, Katie, would you like to tell the people at home what the book was about?
Yeah, so Miracles and Menorahs is a very Hanukkah centered story, and it's set behind the scenes of a Hanukkah festival. And the story follows two of our main characters, Isaac and Sarah, and they're kind of running around trying to get everything figured out for the Hanukkah festival while also dealing with some very personal issues that create a lot of tension and a lot of plot driven points in the piece. It's a great book.
I'm so glad you liked it because I really liked it too. So what did you think of our main characters, Sarah and Aaron? No, oh my God,
Isaac.
Isaac. I just remember the two A's, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah. I really liked him. I thought that this was definitely more of a character driven book than anything. And I liked that Isaac and Sarah were both really fleshed out, very personable and very realistic. I also really liked the fact that Isaac kind of had, an unconventional job that you don't normally see in romance novels. He was an artist. And so that was super exciting for me because I'm also an artist. And it was really great to see that represented, talked about, and to kind of read more about, arts as a living and how that can relate to what you do in your everyday. As for Sarah, I loved her. I thought all of her Hanukkah monikers and stuff was great because I'm the same way. I have a pair of Hanukkah leggings. They're my favorite thing in the whole wide world. I have a drawer full of Hanukkah socks. So I definitely related to her on that level. And I just love the energy that Sarah brought to the piece. She was bright and happy and fun and a great character to read about.
yeah, I agreed. I loved reading about Isaac because, yeah, now that I think about it, it's not really common to see artists, main characters, or people who make art as a living, and it was really, really fun because he was a very successful um, artist, so that was really cool. And with Sarah, I loved how she was so passionate about the whole festival and bringing it to other people and hopefully get the town known as like the Jewish town that it was. I loved it. And I never really thought about it. I mean, obviously, because I was raised Catholic, I never really thought how people go with the holiday as a sort of non-denominational thing, but everybody already knows what holiday means, like, or what holiday they're trying to show. I mean, here in Mexico, sometimes we say Felices Fiestas, which is the same thing as Happy Holidays. But when you go to the mall or when you go someplace, all that you see is Christmas. So it's not really holidays; it's Christmas. So I really loved that uh, sort of discussion that the book brought.
I really enjoyed that too. It was nice to see something Hanukkah centered. Hanukkah isn't, this was mentioned a couple times in the book, it's not a major festival for Jews, but it is a very special festival. It's one of my favorites, just because that's the time of year where I get together with my family and light candles and enjoy the light and the fried food and all of the great fun that Hanukkah has to offer. And I loved the aspect of the book where it talked about the diversity that Hanukkah can bring in. They weren't just talking about, Ashka normative centered foods. They talked about other fried foods. I can see them in my head, but I can't remember the names of them. But just other fried foods from various countries and various areas of Jewry. And I thought that was a really nice touch because Hanukkah does have this great potential to be very diverse, and it's celebrated in so many different ways across the world. Your Ethiopian Jewry Hanukkah is completely different from what you're going to get in the States. So I liked that the book talked about that a little bit and acknowledged how diverse Jewry is.
Yeah. How did you feel about Isaac's lack of enthusiasts, for, so to say, to create the menorah sculpture?
It definitely makes sense. There's this big thing with commercialization, and I think a lot of people feel this way about any holiday. It's what makes it commercialized versus what makes it, personal and special for us. So I loved that aspect of the book, that it talked about the two different sides of what makes a holiday. And you can talk about that with any holiday. It doesn't necessarily have to be Hanukkah. So I really, really enjoyed that. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah. Also, like, I love reading small town romances. It's like, I don't know why, but I always feel like they're so cozy. And I love that this one was kind of half and half, because Isaac lives in New York, in Brooklyn, and sometimes the characters go there and stuff. So it was like a really cool balance, and to see the difference between what it's like to celebrate in the city versus what it's like to celebrate in a small town.
Most definitely. And it's so interesting how much it can vary. I come from a very smallish, I should say, small Jewish community, smallish town. So our Hanukkah looks a lot different than it does in, say, Chicago or New York. It's very different. Like it's more family centered rather than community centered where I'm from. So that was cool to see the differences of, like, Sarah's family has all of these specific traditions that they do as a family, but then they have a wider community aspect. And I liked that that was talked about a lot.
Yeah, exactly. It brought so much of, like, the diversity within the Jewish community, that it was really, really nice to see. It really goes to show that we need more Jewish books out there, so that we can get more rich stories and just more experience. That was my favorite part about
Yeah, I would have to agree. Jewry is vast and diverse. We're all over the world, and we all have different ways of celebrating while still being connected. And I think that's one of the greatest parts about being a Jew, is being connected to so many different people across the world.
it. Yeah. What did you think about the plot?
I did like it. There were a couple points where I felt like the resolutions were um, they didn't go where I thought they were going to go.
Mhm.
Sometimes I felt like things were leading up to something, and then those things didn't happen, which I did actually really enjoy. It was a nice element of surprise, and I liked the focus on creating a meaningful holiday for everybody that the plot had. It was centered around Hanukkah, but it wasn't just about Hanukkah. It was about creating this big experience for everybody to enjoy as a community. So I liked that the plot was driven that way, as opposed to um, more focused on the romantic side of things. I loved the fact that the romance was just kind of sprinkled in there. It wasn't anything like super hot and heavy, like we're going to go straight for the romance and that's what it's going to be. So I did really enjoy that aspect of it.
Yeah, me too. It was, I wouldn't necessarily call it slow burn, because it wasn't, I don't know. Because, like, with slow burn, I feel like sometimes you have to have a certain amount of tension build up. And with this guy, he wasn't tension as much as it was just like attraction, and like, I enjoy how passionate they are about their own thing. And I enjoyed that too. I was not expecting that either. Like, I remember uh in the earliest chapters, when Sarah asks Isaac if he wanted to do the menorah, and he said no, and then his grandma pushed him about it, and he was like, no, still no. I was thinking that he was going to do it because he found Sarah attractive, or because he wanted to do it for his grandma and stuff. And it went in so many, like, in different directions every time, like you said. And it was a nice surprise too, because it made the book much less predictable and much more fun and intriguing to read, because it wasn't like a Disney movie. There were a lot of complications.
Yeah, I agree. I loved that, Isaac didn't make the menorah solely because of Sarah. That was really cool. And I would say it was more like medium burn, like it's not like you're not like sitting there going kiss, 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 but you're also not like lacking any of that excitement that comes from a good romance novel.
Exactly, exactly. And what did you think about the side characters and the setting? We already talked a little bit about the setting, but
I loved all the side characters. I thought they were great. They kind of made the story, in my opinion, because when you're doing something like this, when you're having a romance that's centered around a community event, I think it's really important to have that community around. So I really liked the fact that we got to know Isaac's friends and we got to know Sarah's community and the restaurant owners and the other artists in town. And we even got to know like the more villainesque side of things, which I thought that was really fun. Small town villains are like my favorite thing ever because they're so quirky and so funny, and it was just fantastic.
I agreed, agreed. I loved it because it really felt like a small town romance, because everyone felt real, and it was just, oh, I really wish this book could be turned into a movie or something. I think it has great potential.
I definitely think it'd be a good Hallmark, that's for sure.
Exactly. It has all the vibes, all the aesthetic, and a really cool, important conversation surrounding Hanukkah and being Jewish and community and everything else. And it's something that I don't think I've ever seen in a Hallmark movie or in any other movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It'd be
Yeah.
cool to see the way that, like, it's almost like this was written for the screen or something like that. It's just, it reads like a Hallmark movie, which is a weird sentence to put together, but it's like, it's just cozy and comforting and a very light-hearted read that I really appreciated during this time of year because sometimes the holidays can be a little bit stressful and you just need a read that's like, okay, here I am.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because it's not stressful. It's not, it's all about family and celebrating. And it was really nice. And I loved that, even though it didn't really, I don't know how to explain it, but as cozy as it still felt pretty high stakes. So that was another great thing about it.
Yeah, there was a great balance between, this has to get done in order for the happy ending to happen, and then this isn't going to get done and the happy ending's not going to happen. I thought that was a great tension. And it was stressful in a way, but I was
Hmm.
still relaxed while reading that. You know how sometimes romance novels you're like, I understand that there's probably a happy ending in sight somewhere, but at the same time I'm really really upset and scared right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Like the other day, I read a tweet that it was like, it's amazing how romance authors do it, because the readers know they're gonna get a happy ending, but the job of the romance author is to make them feel like they're not gonna get there. So it's just a great tension, even though, I mean, you're getting a happy ending. It's just the way to get there. That's like, are they really gonna make it out of this? That's fun.
Yeah. And I thought that the tension that was created with it, it was very realistic. Like it wasn't something. Sometimes when I read romance novels, I get a little bit like it's a little bit too out of this world. Like I can't see this situation happening, but this one I could see all of it happening, and so I think that added to the high stakes aspect of it because it was like I can see this happening in my hometown. Like this is something that is very well something that could happen in my own life. So yeah, that added a really cool personal aspect of it for me.
Sorry, I listened to you. It's just that my dog was barking. I was like making faces,
That's okay.
but
I
I'm good.
have my
It's just
Sheltie
my
right
dog was
here.
very noisy.
I totally get that. I'm very lucky that mine is asleep. She's right next to me though, so she might wake up and get crazy. But
What else? What else would you like to talk about for either the book or your experience in like seeing yourself represented? Is this the first romance book that's Hanukkah centered that you've read, or
it's not. I read a couple every year. I actually read, I think it's called Ben's Bakery this year. That was really, really great. And that was an LGBTQ plus Hanukkah romance novel, and I loved that. And it was fantastic. I definitely recommend it. But this was the first traditional like traditional plot romance novel I've read before, if that makes sense. Like there was the all of the aspects of a traditional romance novel where you have that tension, you have the happy ending not in sight, you have the villain who's kind of sneaky and comes out of nowhere from time to time. So that was really cool to read that, and it was nice to see. It wasn't necessarily Midwest, which is where I'm from in the world, but it had a Midwest feel to it. And Midwest jewelry is kind of interesting at times because we're few and far between. So it was cool to see that kind of represented a little bit in a romance novel. And the bubby. Everybody loves a good bubby who is in everybody's business all of the time. We love them. They're fantastic.
I loved her so much. Also, you mentioned the fact that you loved all the different traditional foods, and oh my God, that this book made me so hungry. I was like, I want to try it all.
I was reading it the first night and I was reading that part where I was like, oh my gosh, there's food everywhere. And so I literally stopped reading and went and made latkes. Like I went and deep fried everything. I was like, I can't do it anymore. I'm starving.
They all sounded so delicious, and I was like, maybe I should go where I used to live. The Jewish community was huge, and they own quite a few stores. So I was like, maybe I should go to one of them and ask them if they make them or if they have a recipe or something. Because I am living for this. It just made me so hungry.
And then
I
can we talk about the descriptions of the food for a second? Like those were fantastic. Like I could almost smell the food, and that was so hard when you're sitting there on an empty stomach.
No, yeah, I agree. It was just so like delicious sounding, delicious reading. I don't know. It was just ridiculous how great the descriptions were because I really could not. Like I had to I have a note on my phone with all the food that was mentioned that I want to try one day. And that's my favorite thing about like reading. This is not a foodie romance, but it could be a foodie romance. They eat a
It
lot.
definitely could be. It definitely could be. And I think talking about descriptions a little bit, I think the descriptions in this book were spot on. Whether it was characters, food, which that latte, like I would kill for one of those. That sounds so good. Or the people. The descriptions really made this book for me. It made it realistic, it made them personable, it made this whole book feel like home or like a scene from my hometown.
I love that. I love that. That's the descriptions were why I thought it could make a really great movie because everything is there. Everything that you need to make a great movie is there. And again, I really love that it was romance, but it didn't take the center stage. Because then I feel like I would have been like, okay, but we're planning the festival, and I want to know again because the stakes were really really high.
Yeah, I it was a great read. It was a great cozy Hanukkah read, winter read. You don't have to necessarily read it in Hanukkah because it'll just give you all of these cozy vibes. It's great. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me too. I'm so glad we both enjoyed it. So is there anything else you would like to add before we wrap up?
I would say the one thing that I wasn't necessarily getting behind was at times it almost demonized the non-Jewish characters, which I don't personally agree with. Like I can understand why it was added into the plot the way it was, but I couldn't really get behind that depiction of the sort of demonized not Jew. So that was the one thing that I really didn't like throughout this story. But otherwise, the rest of it was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it.
Yay, I'm so glad. I'm really, really glad because I was dying to read this book and I thought it would be perfect for the book club and I'm really glad you enjoyed it as well. So, yay. I think I did I don't think I did, but I will update the description of these live down below so that you can follow Katie and you can buy Miracles and Menorahs in case you haven't read it. Like I know Nene, who's our sole audience member here, I know you haven't read it, but I highly recommend it. It's not smutty at all, so definitely check it out. Um, and yeah, I will leave Katie's things down below so that you can follow her. She's very active on Instagram, so check her out there. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining me. And don't forget that the February book club pick is Make a Scene by Mimi Grace. And yeah, alrighty. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much for
Bye.
having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. No problem. Whenever you want a buddy read, I am here. We can do it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.